Hello, my name is Maddie Park, and I'm going to talk to you today about emotional disturbances. Emotional disturbances are conditions exhibiting one or more of these characteristics over a long period of time and to a marked degree that adversely affects a child's educational performance. The over a long period of time part of that definition is very, very key in this example of emotional disturbances because they are just that, they're emotional, and anyone can have a bad day. But it is over a long period of time that these become disturbances or disorders. So the characteristics that will have to happen over a long period of time are: one, an inability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors. Two, an inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships with peers and teachers. Three, inappropriate types of behavior or feelings under normal circumstances. Four, a general pervasive mood of unhappiness or depression. And five, a tendency to develop physical symptoms or fears associated with personal or school problems. So what are some examples of that, or what does that include? Well, anxiety disorders are some of the most common: bipolar disorder, conduct disorders, eating disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, which is a type of anxiety disorder, and psychotic disorders. We'll be going over most of these in the next few minutes. Some of the most common behaviors for all of these emotional disturbances are hyperactivity, so like a short attention span or a very, very impulsive child. Aggression or self-injurious behavior, so if this is your kid who is very aggressive, they act out, they fight, they don't follow rules. Withdrawal, so they have problems socially, they pull themselves back from their friends, from their peers, or they have excessive fear or anxiety of something like that. Immaturity, so they are acting very, very young for their age. They're crying, throwing temper tantrums, they just can't cope with things. And learning difficulties, so they're performing below their grade level and there seems to be no clear reason why. So let's talk about the different types of emotional disturbances. The first is anxiety disorders. There's a ton of different anxiety disorders, but the core symptom of all of them is irrational fear. So there's anxiety disorders, panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, social anxiety disorder, and specific phobias. All of these are classified as anxiety disorders because the reasoning behind them is that there is some kind of fear there, whether it's fear of everything, fear of one specific thing. The fear is there and it is irrational. This is the most common psychiatric illness, or these are the most common psychiatric illnesses, all of these different types of disorders. And because of that, they are highly treatable. We have a lot of different types of treatments for them, from medication to psychiatric help. But only about 30% of people actually reach out for this treatment, so getting them to reach out is the most important thing. The next type of disorder we're going to talk about is bipolar disorder. It's also called manic depressive illness. It is an illness that causes dramatic mood swings from very, very high or irritable to very, very sad and hopeless, and then back again. There's periods of normal in between. Sometimes it's very roller coaster-like, and it's just from high to low really quickly. The difference between this and being just a normal human who has highs and lows is that there are severe changes in behavior and energy that go along with this roller coaster of emotion. So it is a very steep incline and steep decline for people with bipolar disorder. And this roller coaster of emotion can be stabilized over time with psychiatric help, but it is an over time type deal. The next type of disorder is conduct disorders. This is a group of behavioral and emotional problems. Children and adolescents with this disorder have problems following rules and behaving in a socially acceptable way. This is where you have kids who are overly aggressive. They might be aggressive to you, to peers, to their parents, to animals. They might just destroy property. Kids who throw chairs or pencils or fists, whatever. They're willfully lying or stealing or just being deceitful just because they can, or they are very truant or just disobey the rules just to disobey the rules. There are several methods of treatment for these types of disorders, mostly including getting behavioral help, but these are very, very destructive types of illnesses. Eating disorders. This is an extreme in eating or feelings of extreme distress or concern about body weight or shape. These are much more common among women. but they definitely can happen to men. Examples of this are anorexia nervosa, which is starving yourself essentially, bulimia nervosa, which is eating but then forcing yourself to throw up, and binge eating, which is an excessive or overeating disorder. Treatment for all of these is definitely widely available, but it is a mixture of psychiatric help and nutritional help, getting these people back on track with their eating habits. The last type we're going to talk about is psychotic disorders. These are disorders such as schizophrenia that cause abnormal thinking and perceptions. The main two symptoms are delusions and hallucinations. Delusions being false beliefs, such that someone is like someone is plotting to murder them, when that is clearly not the case. Or hallucinations, which are false perceptions, that they believe something is touching them, or that they are touching something, or they can hear something, or whatever. Hearing or seeing or touching something that isn't actually there. So a false perception. They think something is there that is not. Treatments are available for this. It is a much more rare kind of disorder than, say, an anxiety disorder, but there is psychiatric help available for these kinds of disorders. So in school treatment, what can you do in a school? Well, students who have these types of emotional disturbances may be eligible for special education or related services. So they might even be pulled out of a normal classroom depending on their behaviors and actions in classes, or how well they do just in different social settings. They need to be provided with emotional and behavioral support, along with being helped to master academics, being helped to develop social skills, being helped to increase their own self-awareness, their own self-control, their own self-esteem. So for example, someone with extreme anxiety disorders may need help developing the social skills needed to make friends. Someone who has an eating disorder might need help to increase their own self-esteem and feel worthy of having friends. Someone who has a conduct disorder might need help increasing their own self-awareness and when they are about to have an emotional breakdown. For a child whose behavior imposes learning, either theirs or other students, they should have an IEP that should consider strategies to address the behavior. So for example, conduct disorder, if a student responds very, very well to positive interactions with teachers, then their IEP should say that is the only way that they will respond. If they do not respond well to being sent out of the classroom, that should be noted, just so that you are not going to be doing the wrong thing for the wrong student to help them out. But in a classroom, so a little bit smaller scale, if you already have a student with an emotional disturbance in your classroom, what can you do? Well, developing or maintaining a schedule is one thing that helps students, particularly with anxiety disorders, so they don't feel scared that they're going to get to class and not know what to expect. They know what to expect, they know what's going to be there. Provide a time for a student to make up work. So if they miss a day of class, or if they have an emotional issue that needs to be dealt with, let them deal with it and make up whatever they miss another time, and make sure that they know that they have that time to make it up. Use self-monitoring checklists. This self-monitoring system is very helpful for students who have behavioral issues. So if they know they are about to have some sort of a emotional breakdown, they can self-monitor and know what steps to take next. Breaking assignments into chunks. This is helpful for all sorts of emotional disturbance disorders, just so that they don't get overwhelmed by assignments and have a temper tantrum or a panic attack. They can start small and work their way big. Give clear instructions as part of that. Sit them near the front so that you can clearly monitor their emotional levels and see if they're stressed out or if they're having issues. Reward positive behaviors. This means reward positive behaviors more than you punish bad ones, so that they can keep doing the things that are good. Allow for mini breaks, so if they know that something, that they need a break from something or just are having a bad day, that you can provide that break for them. And have structured emotional support for them, so maybe check in with them once a week or however often. So let's say you do all these things and then you are still having trouble with it, and you might have a breakdown or problem in class. What should you do? Well, let's take a look on how to respond to these outbursts.
Students yelling or throwing chairs can be challenging, even frightening, but you can use a research-backed framework to de-escalate the situation. The first priority is to keep the student safe and help them calm down, not to elicit apologies or discuss consequences. A child in emotional turmoil is not prepared to be rational, and the research confirms that kids who have experienced trauma don't learn from punishment. Keep your instructions clear and concise and repeat as needed. Traumatized students have a hard time processing complex instructions. Avoid ultimatums like, "Stop, or I'll send you to the principal's office." Providing options like, "You can get some water and we can talk in 5 minutes," or "You can sit in the reading chair and I'll check in soon," is a better strategy. Let your student know that some decisions are theirs. You can and should set boundaries and future expectations. Say, "I can see that you're upset, but it's not okay to yell at me or throw things," for example. Recap what your student says throughout the conversation and check to see if you understood them correctly. That shows you're listening and confirms that you're both on the same page. Finally, remember the rest of your students. Acknowledge what happened, let them process it, and consider a mindfulness activity to help bring them back to calmness. For more on preventing and managing outbursts, visit edutopia.org.
Thank you for watching my presentation on emotional disturbances.